Hey gang, welcome back to another video. I know, not who you're expecting to see, right? But I do have my stunt double hat on, and this week I had a special request that Derek create a Jurassic Park playset for my nephew's birthday. And as one might imagine, where there's a Mrs. VanOaks, there's a way. So let's get to it.
Thankfully, there were a bunch of different options online for free that I could download and 3D print. And so with all of my 3D printing done, I could get down to my favorite part, painting. As you can see, these pillars have no texture, and I imagine if Jurassic Park were real, they'd definitely be made of stone. So I grabbed some acrylic modeling paste and an acid brush and started to stipple the paint across the entire print. I'm looking to create as much texture as possible in this step so that they look more interesting, but also because it will help to catch the paint washes I'll be applying later. If you're tackling a project during the warmer months of the year and are using this acrylic modeling paste, you'll want to work in small sections and move quickly. The paste, much like acrylic paint, starts to dry as soon as it's applied, so work fast, and if time gets away from you, just sand it down and start over. When I got the columns coated, I shifted my attention to the main sign. I'm going to work as lightly as possible so that I don't build up unwanted texture across the lettering, since I assume that part wouldn't be made of stone. Instead, I'll add heavier texture along the outer edges, and whatever is left on my brush will get worked into the areas between the text, and the unwanted paste will get wiped away. By the time I was finished with the main sign, the pillars were dry, so I grabbed some 220 grit sandpaper and started to knock down the texture I'd created earlier. This will make for a better appearance, but will also be better for my nephew to carry. Now that everything's sanded, I removed any excess dust and can move on to the base layer of paint. I'm going with a medium gray color and will apply 2 coats for good coverage, and to lock in the acrylic modeling paste. Once the paint dried, it was time to apply a color wash, and for that I'm using a dark brown that I've thinned 50-50 with water. I also have a damp shop towel to help break up any heavy areas and catch any rogue drips. While I'm applying this layer, I'm really making sure to keep the piece damp. This makes the paint easier to apply, but also increases the working time since it's hot outside and I don't want the paint drying any faster than it already does. I also decided that rather than fight the quickly drying paint, that I'd use it to my advantage. By applying a heavy diagonal line of paint and dabbing away the runny areas, I found that it created a subtle veining effect. Now I know this is only a toy, but even on small projects it's fun to experiment, or in my case, stumble onto something and then use it to your advantage. As I made my way around the pillars, I figured I'd add in some runs below these little boxes, which will eventually hold some 3D printed fake flames. And then it's time to add in a bit of green for some more variety. With the pillars finished, it was time to tackle my least favorite part of any project: detail paint. I had a bit of a shaky start since my paint wasn't thinned enough and was clumping up as I applied it, but after adding a bit more water to my paint, the flow improved and I was able to get 2 halfway decent coats of red paint laid down. The last part of this project are the doors, and I'm going to treat them just like I would any large-scale fake wood grain project by starting with a cinnamon color. Then I'll take the same dark brown from earlier, thin it a bit more, and start to work it across the surface of the doors to create a bit of wood grain. This was tough to do at such a small scale, and I probably should have used a different brush, but overall I think it works for this particular application. I mean, it's going to get attacked by dinosaurs, so it's okay to not be precious with it. The only thing left to do is to apply a bit of clear coat to lock in the paint, and then I can assemble it for final inspection. The only thing left to do now is to box it up and ship it off to Sawyer for his birthday. Now, whether or not you're building any models or playsets for anyone in your life, hopefully you can find these techniques useful for larger projects that you might be working on. Well, that's going to do it for this one. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, but most importantly, go make something.